If you are still holding out hope for a happy ending for Trina and her budding romance this season, I am here to tell you to prepare for a brutal, soul-crushing heartbreak. The writers are not setting up a fairy tale, they are meticulously crafting a nightmare. When we look at the current landscape surrounding Trina, it looks like a dangerous deadlock of epic proportions. On one side we have a mysterious stalker whose obsession is escalating into incredibly dangerous territory. On the other side, we have Kai, the observant friend who has been keeping a close eye on Trina and the looming threats around her. This is not just a random sequence of events, it is a calculated move by the showrunners to push these characters into a corner where someone has to break. If you ask me, the tension has been building so methodically that an explosive confrontation is the only logical outcome. The psychological motive behind this setup is to test Trina's resilience while forcing Kai into a position where he must choose between his own safety and the life of the woman he cares about. Let us dissect the Stalker situation. Whether this shadowed figure turns out to be Quinn, Simon, or someone entirely unexpected, their psychological motive is rooted in a deeply disturbing obsession with Trina. The Stalker has been making moves that set the stage for impending danger, isolating Trina and tracking her every move. Could it be that this Stalker believes they are the only one who truly understands Trina? This implies that anyone who stands in their way, especially a protective figure like Kai, will be viewed as a lethal obstacle. The unforeseen fallout of such a toxic obsession is that it blinds the Stalker to their own vulnerability, making them prone to a fatal miscalculation when confronted by someone willing to fight back. Guys, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the infamous curse that seems to plague Trina's romantic life. If you have been watching closely, you know that every time Trina opens her heart to a young man, tragedy strikes. From past loves who met untimely ends to those who were severely injured, the pattern is undeniable. It looks like the universe has a vendetta against Trina finding happiness. This continuous cycle of grief leads to a shattered trust in her own future. You have to wonder if the writers have an ulterior motive here, intentionally branding Trina as the tragic heroine who must endure endless suffering to build her character. If Kai steps into the role of her protector, he is essentially painting a massive target on his own back, challenging a curse that has never once shown mercy. Now, let us analyze Kai's current trajectory. Kai has already proven himself to be highly observant, especially when he figured out the truth about Drew recovering his mobility. He pays attention to the details that others miss. This implies that Kai is likely the first person to truly comprehend the imminent danger Trina is in. He sees the Stalker closing in. Could it be that Kai's protective instincts override his sense of self-preservation? If you ask me, Kai is not the type to sit on the sidelines and wait for the police to handle things. The psychological motive is driven by a deep-seated need to protect Trina from the darkness that always seems to find her. But stepping into the path of a deranged stalker is a calculated move that comes with a terrifyingly high price. Imagine the scenario that is currently brewing. Trina, perhaps leaving the gallery late at night or walking alone after a music session with Gio, finds herself cornered by the stalker. The atmosphere is thick with dread, a true deadlock where escape seems impossible. The stalker makes their move, brandishing a weapon and preparing to strike. But then Kai emerges from the shadows. It looks like Kai has been tracking the stalker, waiting for the exact moment to intervene. The psychological tension in this moment would be palpable. Kai is not a trained fighter or a mob enforcer. He is a normal guy stepping into a deadly fray out of pure desperation. This implies that the ensuing struggle will be chaotic, messy, and incredibly dangerous for everyone involved. As we break down how this physical altercation might unfold, it is crucial to consider the dynamics of a desperate fight for survival. Kai lunges at the stalker, throwing himself between Trina and the weapon. Could it be that in the midst of this violent struggle, Kai manages to overpower the stalker? If you ask me, the most tragic irony would be Kai using the stalker's own weapon against them. In a calculated move born out of pure adrenaline, Kai might manage to turn the blade or the blunt object back on the attacker. This implies a brutal reversal of fortune, where the hunter becomes the hunted in a matter of seconds. But in soap operas, a victory in battle is rarely a clean one. It looks like Kai's desperate countermeasure will result in the stalker being fatally wounded. The stalker drops to the ground, the immediate threat to Trina seemingly neutralized. For a split second, there might be a massive sigh of relief. Trina might think that the nightmare is finally over, and that Kai has miraculously saved her life. However, the unforeseen fallout of engaging a cornered predator is that they are at their most dangerous in their dying moments. The psychological motive of the stalker, driven by pure rage and obsession, would not allow them to simply fade away without taking their enemy down with them. This brings us to the most heartbreaking possibility. Could it be that the Stalker, with their very last breath and final ounce of strength, launches a devastating counterattack? If you ask me, this is exactly the kind of tragic twist the writers love to pull. Before the Stalker stops breathing entirely, they strike Kai with a fatal or near fatal blow. Kai, having let his guard down for just a fraction of a second to check on Trina, takes the full brunt of this final malicious attack. The calculated move to disarm the Stalker ultimately results in Kai sacrificing his own body. He collapses, heavily bleeding or suffering from massive trauma, turning a moment of heroic triumph into an absolute catastrophe. Guys, picture Trina's reaction as she watches Kai fall to the ground. The sheer terror and helplessness she must feel would be unbearable. She rushes to his side, tears streaming down her face, desperately trying to keep him awake. In that agonizing moment, the realization of the curse must wash over her like a tidal wave. Another boy she cares about, lying broken and bleeding because of his association with her. This would result in a completely shattered trust in the world around her. How can she ever allow herself to love again when the cost is always paid in blood? Trina's psychological motive going forward would be heavily defined by this profound trauma, cementing her belief that she is destined to destroy anyone who tries to love her. As we look at the potential aftermath of this bloody confrontation, we must divide our predictions into two distinct paths. Scenario A suggests that Kai survives the initial trauma but faces a grim medical reality. It looks like the paramedics might arrive just in time to restart his heart, rushing him to the hospital where Portia and the other doctors desperately try to save him. Could it be that Kai's injuries are so severe that he falls into a deep coma or a permanent vegetative state? If you ask me, this scenario provides the writers with maximum emotional mileage. Trina would be forced to sit by his hospital bed day after day, holding the hand of a hero who might never wake up. This implies a long, agonizing storyline of hope and despair, testing Trina's shattered trust in miracles. On the other hand, we have to consider Scenario B, which is far more final and devastating. Scenario B implies that Kai's injuries are simply too catastrophic for even the best surgeons to repair. Could it be that Kai succumbs to his wounds shortly after arriving at the hospital, or even right there in the alleyway in Trina's arms? If you ask me, this path serves an ulterior motive for the showrunners, to completely wipe the slate clean and push Trina into an incredibly dark, isolated phase of her life. Kai dying as a hero cements his legacy, but it leaves Trina drowning in survivor's guilt. The unforeseen fallout of Kai's death would ripple through the entire canvas, affecting Quinn, who might feel responsible for their rocky past, and sending shockwaves through the younger generation. We also need to analyze how this tragic event will impact the other people in Trina's orbit. Take Geo, for example. Geo and Trina have been bonding over their music, and Geo has been a source of light and encouragement for her. But if Geo witnesses the sheer devastation that falls upon Kai, could it be that he decides to step back? The psychological motive for Geo would be self-preservation. Seeing the reality of the supposed curse might make anyone think twice about getting too close. It looks like Kai's sacrifice, whether it ends in a vegetative state or death, will create an invisible barrier around Trina, isolating her from potential future romances out of pure fear. In conclusion, while we cannot say with absolute certainty which path the writers will take, the writing on the wall points to an impending tragedy. The deadlock between Trina, the Stalker, and Kai is a powder keg, waiting for a spark. So, if you ask me, Kai is destined to become the tragic hero of this arc, paying the ultimate price for his protective instincts. Whether he ends up trapped in his own mind in a vegetative state or loses his life entirely, the unforeseen fallout will forever change Trina. Her shattered trust in love will be the central theme of her character for months, if not years, to come. I predict that we are about to witness some of the most heartbreaking scenes of the season, but as always, the true motives of the writers remain hidden until the very last second.